Alrighty, my friends, it's your Popboy. Let's get right down to it. I've been having a hell of a time over here. If there's another part of the game that's more messed up than this, I mean, maybe there is, but I have yet to encounter one. I mean, a guy just wants to go down to his cave and test my MyNBA sliders, you know, my typical ideal Friday, Saturday night. And I go to do that, and I'm just immediately, I'm just drowning. I find myself drowning in a freaking ocean of those damn free agency leftovers. So, it really didn't leave me much of a choice. Like, I had to do it. I had to just stop and just point all of my lasers at this right away. It's just too messed up. We can't go on like this. Now, don't worry, the full menu, right, of my MyNBA sliders, that will soon follow. But that's the thing, these also happen to be the sliders we'll go over in this video. They're the most important sliders for us to get right early. So I had to get them out to you ASAP. Okay, and right here in the video, by the way, that's the only place that you can find these settings right now. Let's get into it, man. Let's start with the one piece of good news that we do have. Remember how on New Gen last year, the salary cap in 2K23, it did not increase year over year like it should? Sure, you know what I'm talking about. It was a whole thing. Well, in 2K24, thank God, that is fixed. So I was relieved to see that. We at least got that. But unfortunately, man, we also got just some of the worst results I've ever seen on default. The worst part is, like I said, the freaking free agency leftover guys. Look at this. The guys, teams would just fight to the death over. All of them are just sitting there with no team. All these guys have no place to call home on day one of a new season. None of them got signed. God, man, and this is only after 3 seasons. This is 3 years in. 3 years. Okay, deep breath. Let's move on to happier days. Now that I have my testing finished. What now, bitch? Not a single one after 3 years, 4 years, 5, 6, 7, 8. We basically eliminated the leftovers on New Gen for good. Alright, so let's get into it. How do we do it? Alright, and again, this is for New Gen. A word on last gen later, but this is really where the big mess is. So, let's clean it up. Alright, number 1. We need wiggle room. Gotta have that wiggle room, so no matter how long we want to play, we make sure that we never get into a situation where, you know, virtually every team is strapped and nobody can afford anybody, and then we start getting those leftovers, you know, popping back up. Yeah, man, the testing on this tells me pretty freaking clearly that we need all the help we can get in this area. And that's why we're taking the salary cap slider and we're maxing the thing out, putting it at 166. It's actually kind of lucky. I really don't think that I would put it any higher than that, even if it did let me. We got a similar story, as you might guess, with the inflation slider. Honestly, this freaking inflation slider, like if I put this on a really low setting, like yeah, it won't grow quite as much, but mostly it'll just make the growth that you do have really sporadic. So we want to put this on a high setting to keep the cap growth more regular. Oh, I kind of skipped over. Of course, we want MBA here, right? And of course, we want the cap on. That's pretty obvious. And the luxury tax, we want incremental, just like real life. That's fine. That's good, man. Let's get to the hard cap. So we're going to have this one on as well, of course, but we're not going to jack it up, though. All right? And that's because the growth of the hard cap, it always outpaces the growth of the regular cap. Yeah, we still want to raise this just a little bit, though. We're going to put it at 242. Guys, so wiggle room, check. The next thing the salary expectations, man. We gotta tweak these. We gotta tone them down, man. These amounts are just not commensurate with what the cap is and the realities of the market at large. It just doesn't add up. It doesn't match up, and it gets us into trouble down the line with the freaking free agency leftovers. So that's the other part of this puzzle. We're toning this shit down. It's just too much. All right, so let's start with the top three. We got min, max, and curve. Okay, we're going to take the minimum up to 74. We're going to take the max up to 80. And then we're going to take the curve down to 22. Let's get to the next one. This has been a pet peeve of mine forever. They put way too much weight on youth and potential when the game is determining player values. Yeah, we definitely want to take this one down quite a bit. We're bringing it down all the way to 20. 2K, you whiffed on this one. You always do. The next three of these, let's do them quickly because I really don't have that much of a problem with them. Nothing big to get into here. So durability, 37, minutes, 50, and fame, 15. All right, now non-financial ambitions. Raising this slider actually helps promote like logical and realistic compromise in free agency negotiations. That's why we're gonna raise this slider. I got it up at 72. Now hold on, hang on, we're not done yet. Let's head over to the difficulty tab. We got two more contract related sliders, and then I can't stress how important it is for you guys to stick around for what's after these two sliders. Just trust me. First, we got the contract negotiation difficulty. You know, this year there really is better competition and more challenging contract negotiations. I'm glad to see they're moving in the right direction. It's still not quite enough. It's good to see. So we're taking this slider up, just not quite as much as we have in the past. So this year I got it at 66. Okay, now CPU re-signing, aggressiveness. I hate this, man. Just flat out, the CPU just does not try nearly hard enough to keep their own good players. Yeah, man, this has always been a problem, like I said, but it's actually a little worse this year in my estimation. So we're going to take this up a little more than we have in the past. So this year I got it at 78. Now hold on. Everybody, nobody move. Okay? Even if we get all that entered in right, we get it all set right, the game can still jump up and bite us and mess up everything we just worked for. I'm gonna try to keep it real simple. So here's what you need to know. And it has to do with the off-season rule changes. With the salary cap, this has like a 15% success rate. If you try to come in here and raise the cap with a rule change, it usually doesn't work. It's very unreliable. That's why I usually never mess with them. That's not new. That's always been the case. That's not the issue. The issue is when the game takes it upon itself to put a rule change on this list that has to do with the salary cap. That's when we run into a problem. Okay? Because just a rule being on this freaking list can and likely will, for some reason, somehow, it'll like stunt our cap growth long term. It does it for years. It screws up the cap amounts. It just like doesn't grow like it should years later. It's like still affected. I'm not gonna try to make sense of it. Let's get to what do we need to do. So first of all, don't just skip over this part of the off season. Make sure you come in here and look at what rule changes are on there, and make sure that you don't see anything, and I mean anything related to the salary cap. Okay, and if you do, this is the extremely important detail. You can't just reject it and move on. It will still do it even if the rule is rejected. Okay, so please replace the rule. Don't just reject and hit advance. All right, it's select anything else. I usually pick a stupid like all-star game rule, and then I reject that new rule that I put on there. Whatever you want to do, just make sure there is nothing that relates to the cap on this list before you hit advance. Okay, so all right, that's got to be good, man. I think that's got to be enough. I think we're good. I'm more than ready to move on. Okay, we got the rest of the MyNBA sliders to do, the trade, the progression, simulation, all that stuff is coming up. CPU versus CPU 2. Really like what I'm seeing in the testing there. Nice. So as always, make sure you're subscribed and you have your bell on and you stay notified. And of course, comment if you have any questions or anything else for me. And drop a like for me before you go if you enjoy the video, if you found this useful. I appreciate you guys. And oh, last gen. My last gen people, I have not forgotten about you. This thing just took me out of my ways, this whole mess, but yeah, I'm still doing last gen, so be on the lookout for like a mass release video on last gen in the near future. Okay, I'm putting out last gen shit like in bulk this year. Okay, yeah, man. Anyway, I think we're good for now. I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope you come on back around here next time for the next edition of 2K with the Popboy.